It's one of the most haunting mysteries in modern history. 9 young hikers, full of life and adventure, set out into the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains in 1959 and never came back. When their bodies were finally found, what rescuers saw was so strange, so unsettling, that more than 60 years later people are still asking the same question: what really happened on Dyatlov Pass? It was January 1959 in the Soviet Union. A group of students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, planned a 16-day expedition through the Ural Mountains. They were experienced, trained in skiing, survival, and navigation. Their destination was Mount Otterton, a remote and icy peak north of their starting point. The group included 9 hikers, 7 men and 2 women. They were young, between 20 and 24, and eager for adventure. One more member, Yuri Yudin, began the trip but turned back early because of back pain. That decision would save his life. As the group continued north, the weather worsened. Heavy snow and freezing winds battered the slopes. By February 1st, they had reached the eastern side of a mountain called Kholat Cycle, which is the local Mansi language means dead mountain. They set up camp on an exposed slope, likely to practice camping in extreme conditions before reaching the summit of Otterton. That night, the temperature dropped below 25 degrees Celsius. No one would ever see them alive again. When the hikers didn't return on schedule, friends and family grew worried. After several days, the university organized a search party. Soon, the Soviet army joined in, using planes, helicopters, and rescue teams on skis. On February 26, 1959, rescuers spotted the group's tent on the mountainside. It was half buried in snow, ripped open from the inside. Inside lay their belongings, coats, boots, food, even cameras, as if the hikers had fled suddenly and without reason. Outside the tent, footprints led down toward the forest, barefoot or in socks, evidence that they had walked calmly, not run. Following the prints, searchers found the first 2 bodies beneath a large cedar tree, nearly a kilometer from the tent. They were wearing only underwear and had made a small fire. Nearby, broken branches suggested that one of them had climbed the tree, perhaps to look for the tent or signal for help. 3 more bodies, including Igor Dyatlov, were found halfway between the tree and the tent, frozen in the snow as if trying to crawl back. It took 2 more months before the remaining 4 hikers were discovered in a ravine, buried under several meters of snow. The initial autopsies raised more questions than answers. 6 of the hikers had died from hypothermia, the effect of exposure to extreme cold, but 3 had suffered fatal internal injuries, crushed ribs, fractured skulls, and massive internal bleeding without external wounds. 1 woman's tongue and eyes were missing. Some of their clothes contained traces of mild radioactivity. Investigators were stunned. There were no signs of another group, no animal tracks, and no evidence of a struggle. The official conclusion stated that the hikers died due to an unknown compelling natural force. That phrase would haunt the case for decades to come. For many years, experts debated whether an avalanche could explain what happened. Recently, modern researchers from ETH, Zurich, and EPFL revisited the case using advanced snow simulation models. Their studies showed that a small snow slab avalanche could indeed have occurred. Strong winds and a build-up of snow above the tent may have collapsed part of it, forcing the hikers to cut their way out and flee. Disoriented, underdressed, and exposed to blizzard conditions, they could have quickly frozen to death. The severe internal injuries might have become later when some fell into the ravine or were struck by hard snow blocks. This explanation, published in 2021, aligns with many of the physical clues and remains the most accepted scientific theory today. But it doesn't answer every question, especially why the hikers seemed to walk calmly, or why some clothes showed radiation. During the height of the Cold War, the Urals were home to Soviet military testing. Some researchers believe the hikers accidentally entered a restricted zone or witnessed something they were never meant to see. In this version, they might have been exposed to parachute mines, experimental weapons, or chemical agents. Loud concussions from nearby explosions could have panicked them into cutting open the tent. Some burns of the bodies and the presence of low radiation strengthened this idea for many years. There were even reports of strange glowing lights in the sky that night, possibly missile tests or atmospheric phenomena. However, no declassified Soviet documents confirmed that any military operations took place in that area at the time. Another explanation comes from physics. Under the right wind conditions, mountains can create a phenomenon called infrasound, low-frequency vibrations below human hearing. Some scientists propose that strong winds over the pass could have produced these frequencies, triggering fear and disorientation. In a panic, the hikers might have fled the tent, thinking they were in danger. Once outside, confusion and frostbite could have led to chaos and death. It's an eerie, but scientifically possible idea, showing how nature itself can turn terrifying. Some early Soviet investigators briefly considered whether the local Mansi people could have attacked the group, but there was no evidence or violence of foreign footprints. Others suggested a wild animal attack, but that was too dismissed. No animal tracks were found, and the tent damage came from the inside, not the outside. A few theories enter stranger territory: UFO encounters, ball lightnings, or even a Yeti-like creature. These ideas captured the imagination of the public but lack any real evidence. Still, they highlight just how extraordinary the mystery seemed and how desperate people were to make sense of it. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case. After a year-long inquiry, they announced their conclusion in 2020. The hikers died due to a snow slab avalanche combined with poor visibility and low temperatures. The official explanation may close the file, but for many, it doesn't close the mystery. Skeptics argue that the avalanche was too small, the slope too gentle, and that some inquiries remain unexplained. Even decades later, every detail still fuels debate, from the way the tent was pitched to the positions of the bodies. The place where the tragedy occurred now bears a permanent name, the Dyatlov Pass, in honor of Igor Dyatlov and his team. Every year, hikers visit the memorial stone erected at the site. Their diaries, recovered from the snow, still exist, with cheerful entries describing songs, jokes, and optimism just days before their death. The case has inspired documentaries, books, films, and countless online discussions. To some, it's a symbol of human fragility against nature's power. To others, it's a reminder of how secrets can outlive the people who keep them. No one will ever know exactly what the hikers saw or felt on that frozen night. Maybe it was a natural disaster. Maybe it was human error. Maybe something stranger happened in that storm. But here's what we do know. 9 young adventurers chasing a dream in the mountains met a terrifying and mysterious end. Their story still echoes across the snow-covered slopes of Dyatlov Pass, where the wind whispers through the pines, and the mountains keep its secret.